In today's episode, QPAT
Okay.
President Heidi Yetman answers some questions
Excellent.
in the
So
first of
once
our
again,
Get to
Heidi, we're
Know Your
doing something
President
new.
series.
Luckily, you're always game. We're going to do a new series where we're going to be meeting the local union presidents, getting to know our presidents essentially. And we're starting with the QPAT president, Heidi Yetman. So Heidi has agreed to answer a few questions so our members could get to know Heidi a little more. Before I start, Heidi, I know for a fact that you recently tried something new. And I'm putting you on the spot. I saw that you got your first tattoo. How did that go?
It went really well. And
Yes.
actually, what's amazing is that it was one of my students that did it. So she graduated
Really?
about, she's 25 now. So she graduated 8 years ago. And I designed the tattoo quite a long time ago and have been wanting one for quite some time. And when I found out she was doing tattoo work, I called her up and off we went. So it's the initials of my two sons, Z and E, back to back.
Beautiful. And it's healing well for the first experience.
For a first experience, wow. It didn't hurt and it's healing really well. So I'm really
that's really good news. It looks great. All right, Heidi. So I'd like to know a little bit how you came about becoming president of QPAT. So a little bit what your trajectory was.
Well, I always like to start with a story that happened to me when I was 16. So when I was 16, I was working at a hot dog stand, minimum wage, kind of a cruddy job in the middle of a mall. But anyway, they asked me to come in on a Saturday morning for a meeting. And it just so happened that I didn't work that Saturday. So it upset me quite a bit because it was rare that I had a Saturday off. So I talked to my mom about it. And my mom said, Heidi, call the labor board. That's not right. So I called the labor board and they told me that one of the rules was that you had to, if you were asked to come into work, they would have to pay you a minimum of 3 hours. So I was like, this is great. So I called my employer, the hot dog stand owner, and I said, I know you want me in for a meeting on Saturday and I'm willing to come in, but you'll have to pay me for 3 hours of work because I just called the labor board and that's what they told me.
Wow, you must have blown his mind.
I know. You know, the worst part is he said, oh, no problem. I'll pay you for the 3 hours, but don't tell anybody else. And being 16, I was so excited that I was getting paid for the 3 hours that I actually didn't tell anybody else. But I was always a bit of a disturber. And even when I worked at Zellers, I would often call the labor board. I was born on Labor Day, the 5th of September. So I don't know if that has anything to do with it. But, when I started working in Quebec, somebody who was on the executive at the Pearson Teachers Union asked me if I would become a delegate. And I said, well, I don't even know what that is. And he said, oh, it's simple. You go to a meeting once a month, you distribute some documents. It's as simple as that. And I thought, okay, I can do that. And actually, I was quite fascinated by the meetings. I thought it was really interesting. I realized how important it was to know your collective agreement, to understand how the union works. So I was quite happy. And I was a delegate for many, many, many years after that. And enjoyed that job, enjoyed, talking to the teachers, if they had problems, calling the local union. And then I went and got I enrolled in a master's program in 2013 at Concordia. And I discovered through my master's that I was really into being the voice for others and being an activist. And it took me quite a long time to finish my master's. It took me 6 years. But while I was doing my master's, we were in negotiations in 2015. And I had attended over 20 different demonstrations that all became part of my thesis. And my thesis was called A Movement in Three Parts: Artist, Activist, and Educator. And so all of my activist stuff, which was connected to negotiations, ended up being in my thesis. And I finally completed it in 2019. But that's what started the whole union thing. I got elected to be on the executive of the Pearson Teachers Union. And then after those really tough negotiations of 2015, I ran to be president of the Pearson Teachers Union, and I won. And then the QPAT presidency opened up, and I thought, this is even more exciting because not only, now I can actually speak to the Minister of Education. This is great. Mm-hmm. So I ran for QPAT president and it was acclaimed. And I've been in this role now for 2.5 years. But I think it's in my blood to kind of stand up for the underdog, or to stand up, be the voice of other people, because I love speaking. I love being in the public eye.
Oh, wow. That's
so
fantastic.
There's my story.
And it all started at the hot dog stand.
Yes, it did.
I love that. And so can you share something that you wish that more teachers knew about their union?
Well, unfortunately, teachers usually call the union when there's a problem. And so there are a lot of teachers out there that never call their union because there's never an issue. But it's really important to know your collective agreement, kind of know what the rules are. We fought really hard for the working conditions that we have, even though we still have a lot to fight for. So it's important to know, what's in the collective agreement and the local agreement. But I think what's really important to understand is that I've realized there's a few things. Well, the first thing is that the people that I work with, all these union leaders, are amazing. Most of them are there for the right reasons. They work really hard because they really believe in what they're doing. They're fighting for better wages. They're fighting for better working conditions. They're fighting for their members that are working in the trenches. I think that's really important to understand that, most of us are there because we really are passionate about what we're doing. And so I'm really lucky. I've met union leaders across this province, and they're amazing people, and they work really hard. And I think the second thing that people have to understand is change takes time. Even when I was a local union president, I had all these, I wanted to do this and this. I had all these ideas that I wanted to do. And I realized that it's one battle at a time. And that one battle, whatever it is, will take time. Democracy takes time. And so to persevere, that's really important in this job, and to continue fighting and to continue pushing and hoping that eventually that the change that you're looking for will take place. But it takes time. And I think people have to realize that it's not overnight. It could take a year to get something that you really you really want, or you really want to work for.
And it's frustrating sometimes that you need to have patience. But I think it's when you look back and you see, oh, okay, it did take a while, but if I can look back, I can see everything that we did accomplish. And
yeah. And in the end, you're really proud of what you can accomplish, because you end up accomplishing things. Obviously, it just takes a long time. And another thing that I think is really important is, teachers, I think they know that their working conditions have deteriorated over the last 10 years. I know that in my 23 years of teaching, the last 10 or the last 5 were really, really hard. And because of that, it seems like administrators or principals have had a lot more piled on them. And what happens is that they pile it onto the teachers. And now we get more calls to the unions because of those working conditions. So our working conditions as union workers also has deteriorated. And it's unfortunate, but that's what happens when you put pressure on workers. It puts pressure on the whole system. It puts pressure on the school boards. It puts pressure on the people that work in the unions. With this pandemic, the pressure is unbelievable. And you know just as well as I do how much more it's taken in the last year because of the pandemic.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, speaking of pressure in the pandemic, I think about this a lot myself. But in your case, if you look back on this past year and a half, is there anything that you perhaps picked up during the pandemic that you want to maintain in your life? And also the opposite, something that you stopped doing during the pandemic that you don't want to necessarily bring back into your life?
Well, I don't know if it's about holding things or letting things go, but there is definitely some lessons that I've learned in the last year. I think the one thing that I've learned is relationships are really, really important. Personal relationships, talking to people in face to face in presence. So a good part of my job is attending different meetings and voicing the teachers' opinions at those tables or at those meetings. But what's really more interesting than sitting at those meetings are the conversations that take place in the hallways, the conversations that take place in the bathroom, or the conversations that take place during lunch. And in the last year, working from home, we've lost that. And I've realized how important relationships are. I think that for me is probably the biggest thing that I've realized, which has opened up a whole thing for my personal life as well. I have some friends that I maybe would get in touch with once or twice a year. I have friends in Winnipeg. I have friends in British Columbia, and I once or twice a year, I'll get in touch with them. And what I've decided to do is to get in touch with them more often. So I've been calling my friends more often, sometimes every 2 weeks. So because I've realized how important those relationships are, and I've neglected them in a sense, I've kind of put them aside. So I think that's really important. Another thing that I've kind of discovered over the last year is, life is wonderful and beautiful, and you have to find joy in it. And I went on that march on July the 1st for the lost Indigenous children. And there was an elder there that did a ceremony. And it was right at the beginning of the event. And he did it in his language. And then he translated part of it. And one of the things he said is, what needs to change in politics is politicians need to lead from their heart. And that really affected me when I heard that. Plus, like I said, I've been reaching out to friends. I've been more open myself in terms of sharing things. And so leading from the heart is really important. And I think that that's something that I'm going to carry along in the future as I'm a leader in the union, is to lead from the heart. Narratives are important, and that's what we do. We listen to teachers' narratives. We hear how they're doing well or how they're not doing well, and it's through those narratives that I can go and speak from the heart to the Ministry of Education or to the people that can change their lives, right? So those are a few things that that I've discovered in the last year and a half during the pandemic.
Thank you for sharing those. And on a final note, what would you say to somebody who would like to get involved with the union, a teacher, a member, but feels, you know what, I don't think I'm prepared for this. What kind of training do I need? So what advice would you give somebody who does want to become involved?
Well, anybody who wants to get involved, the first thing you should do is become a delegate. And it really isn't a lot of work. It can be a lot of work if we're in the middle of negotiations, but right now we're not. It's a great time to kind of say, you know what, I want to know more. So just being a delegate and going to those meetings, which are now more virtual than ever, so it's a lot easier for members to be a delegate. That to me would be the first step. And to say that, I don't think I can do it, it's not true. That's how I started. I didn't know anything about the collective agreement. And then slowly but surely, I had my copy of the local agreement, and I would look things up for members to see if I could find it. And if I couldn't, I would call my local union, you know. So I think that anybody can do this job if you're passionate about it, if you really want to. It's about helping people, and that's what teachers do. Teachers are caregivers. They do it every day for their students. So this is just doing it for your colleagues, basically, if you're a delegate of the school. And then see where it takes you. You never know where it will take you. It took me right up to the QPAT presidency, which I was not expecting at all, but I love my job and I love the work that I do. So yeah, that's where you start. Or, you know, talk to your delegate in your school and find out a little bit more about your collective agreement. But anybody can do it, you know.
With you, I noticed it was saying yes when the opportunities arose. You just say yes, you know.
Yes.
Even if I didn't think about that, but it's there. Maybe it is the right time.
Yeah, we need more. We need more leaders that are coming from the ground. You know, that's really important too. You know, 75% of teachers are women, and if you look at the administration level at school boards, there's not 75% women there. So we need more, whatever it is, we need more women that are coming forward to do those leadership positions.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Heidi, for kicking off the new series. We're going to be, every now and again, we're going to be interviewing one of the local union presidents and getting to know them as well. They are your elected officials and they're there for you. So we hope this is helpful and we look forward to the next one. And thank you so much, Heidi. I'm sure we'll be speaking again very soon. We have more things to discuss. I think there's
absolutely.
Always
always something to discuss. There's never a dull moment, let me tell you.
That's for sure. Well, thank you so much, and I'll see you soon.
All right, take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
There we go.